There's a serious delay on this. Serious delay. Let me see. I don't like that. I don't like the delay. Oh, it's like the delay is like 20 seconds. See, some people are watching on YouTube, but it's the first time I'm doing this. Well, I don't know if it's the first time I'm doing it. Well, first time I'm live streaming on YouTube and doing a Zoom at the same time. So I don't. You know what it is? This Zoom, this delay is driving me crazy. So what I might do is mute it on YouTube. I'm not distracted. Muted on YouTube. Or I might just end end the YouTube altogether. Let me see. For those on the Zoom, I'm also broadcasting this on YouTube at the same time. I'm probably going to end the YouTube because I'm just testing it out. So I'll probably end that, but let's see how it goes first. Okay, just gonna wing it a little bit. Okay, if you look at the if you look at this paper, this diagram that I have up here, if you look at the top of it, it says New York State Department of Motor Vehicles Road Test Evaluation. All right, so what this is an exact duplicate of the types of things that they'll be testing you on the New York State road test. So if you look at it, it's broken down into 5 different categories. And in each one of these categories, you have different things listed there. Next to those different things, you will have a point value associated with every one of those different things. All right, at the end of the test, you will see a box there that says total points, right down here. All right, so basically what this is a list of mistakes. So these are the typical mistakes that people make on the New York State road test, all right? So if you look at it, the points range anywhere from 5 points up to 15 points. Once you accumulate a certain amount of points, you will fail the road, you can fail the road test. All right, so the maximum amount of points you can accumulate and still pass the road test is 30 points. So if you look at the bottom of the paper here, you see a little area where it says meet standards for licensing, yes or no. You see another area there where it says reasons for disqualification. And then the very last line there, it says additional training needed and or more than 30 points. So the basic way of failing the road test is to accumulate more than 30 points. So anything under 30 and under is a pass. Anything over 30 is a fail. So again, that section is under reasons for disqualification. You see a couple of different things there. Accident, serious violation, dangerous action. Those are all reasons why you can fail the road test automatically. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what you should be doing on a road test and things you should not be doing on a road test. I'll be going into those things in detail as much as possible. Feel free to ask me questions as we go along, and that could be anybody. That could be on people that are on the Zoom or on the YouTube. And the YouTube, I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep up the YouTube up there. So if you have a question, feel free to ask me. I'm just testing this out on YouTube. All right, for now. All right, so anyway, let's see. So when you take the road test, before I do that, they used to give, at the end of your test, they used to give you a paper that looks like this at the end of your test, except it was yellow. All right, and that would be your test results. Those would be your test results. So if you look down, you get this paper, you look down at the bottom, look at your total points. If it was 30 or less, you pass. If it was over 30, then that's a fail. Also, if you look at this paper at the bottom, it says, when stamped, this document is a valid interim license. So what they would do is, if you pass, they would stamp it. If you did not pass, that was a fail. Also, when you would pass the road test, they would take your 5-hour class certificate from you because you wouldn't need it anymore. All right. Now the whole process is different. You no longer get this paper. You no longer get a receipt version of this because they would send you after they stop using this paper, they would fill out and conduct the test using their tablets. All right. And they would do the whole test on the tablet. They would basically have a duplicate of what's on this paper on the tablet. And then they would print out a little receipt version of this paper. It wouldn't have all of these things on it, but it would just have the mistakes that you made on it, or that you did on the road test on that little piece of paper. All right, so they no longer have the paper, the document that I'm showing on the screen. They no longer give you the little receipt version of your test results. Now what they do is, I'm not sure if you can see me. Let me see how this looks. Not sure if you're seeing it, but now what they do is they give you a little card at the end of your test. And it has a website on it, the DMV website, and it says road test results, and that's where you go for your road test results after your test. So once you complete your test, you will not know whether you passed or failed right away, all right? Unless the examiner gives you some type of hint. But most of the time, they just give you this little card. Where is it? Oh, here we go. They would give you this little card, and then you would go to that. And if you look at the card, I don't know if you could read it, but it says to go to the website after 6 p.m. So you won't know your road test results until after 6 p.m. the day of your road test. And it could actually be longer than that if you do your road test, say like on a Friday. I've had some students who went and took their test on a Friday afternoon, and the examiner said, okay, well, you might have to wait until Monday to get your test results. All right. And that's because after they finish the road test, they go back to the DMV office and they enter all the results. And then somebody, I guess, sits there or uploads it to the DMV system to this website. So it's possible that on a Friday afternoon, it's late, maybe people are getting ready to go home, and maybe because of that, it may not get done until Monday. So I'm not sure, but normally after 6 p.m., the day of your road test, go to that website and you get your test results. All right. All right. The test. If you fail the road test, you can take the road test again as soon as you can get another road test date. Road test dates typically, right now, I would say it's about a 6-week to 8-week wait. I think the last set of dates I saw on the website were around April 18th, April 20th, something like that. So if you look at that, today is the 6th. So that's probably about, a week and a half. I mean, not a week and a half, a month and a half, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, roughly around that. And this is the beginning of the spring, okay? Not even spring, we're still in winter. So once spring starts and it starts to get warm, a lot of people will be trying to get their license. That's typically the season: spring, summer, early fall. But spring and summer, all right? So when spring comes, it's going to be a lot of people looking to get their driver's licenses. So that 6-week window to take your road test will increase from maybe from 5 or 6 to 7 or 8. So it's typically it's not unusual to have a 2-month wait for road test dates. So that's normal, 6 to 8 weeks. So right now it's around 5 or 6, depending on the road test site. All right. So what you want to do is now there are ways to get earlier road test dates. For example, I can get them in a week, 2 weeks, whatever. So it'll cost a little bit extra to get an early date, but it is possible to get those dates. If you need that, just let me know. Text me 718-791-8807. It's the best way to text me. 718-791-8807 if you need a fast road test date. Now I'll give you, text me and I'll give you the information regarding that. Okay, so now when you take your road test or when you're scheduling your road test, let me step back a little bit. When you take your 5-hour class, at the end of your 5-hour class, you will get a certificate, which is called the MV278 certificate. You will use that certificate to schedule your road test and take your road test. All right. When you take your road test, you will need to bring with you your picture permit, your picture ID, your picture permit, and your 5-hour class certificate. If you are under 18, you will also need to bring, I believe it's called the Form MV262, which is a document that is signed by a parent or guardian that says that, hey, they understand that you had enough driving lessons and enough practice to take the test, and they consent to you taking the test, or they consent that you've had enough lessons to do that. Okay, so you must bring that form, MV262. If you're under 18, everybody else, you just need to bring your 5-hour class certificate, which is the MV278 certificate, and your picture permit. For those of you who done the 5-hour class, which is another name for the pre-licensing course, MV278 course, most people know that's a 5-hour class. Some of you have done that class not on Zoom, but online. So you probably went on some type of website that does the pre-licensing course / 5-hour class, and it's all pretty much computerized. You go on it, you do the class. It probably asks you to check, do some type of security check to make sure it's you and that you're actually sitting in front of the computer or whatever. So you do. So if you've done it like that, you won't get an actual physical certificate in the mail, or that you can produce for the road test. But with that, once you complete that class, they will send off a notification to the DMV with your permit information, with your learner's permit ID information in it. And then if that's the case, all you have to do if you are taking your road test is bring your learner's permit, your picture learner's permit. All right, so make sure you do not confuse the two. So if you're doing a Zoom 5-hour class, we have an actual person like me, a live person like me, sitting in front of you and sitting in front of the screen conducting a class, you will need your actual physical copy of your 5-hour class certificate. If you did your 5-hour class and it was not an actual physical person sitting in front of you or sitting in front of the screen conducting the class, then you do not need the 5-hour class certificate, the MV278. You can just show up with your learner's permit, your picture learner's permit, okay? All right, when you get to the road test sites, Another thing that you have to bring is a licensed driver. All right, so you need a licensed driver and a vehicle. All right, so the things that you need to bring with you to your road test. Let me see if I could do it on. Let me see if I could do a little box here. Uh, and you cannot bring copies of these documents. Can't show them a picture on your phone. It has to be the actual document. And your MV-278 certificate, once you get that, it's good for 1 year from the date that you took the took the class. All right. That's another thing. Make sure when you do bring these documents, make sure nothing is expired. Make sure your learner's permit ID, make sure it has not expired. So check the dates on that. Also check your learner's permit ID for things like I don't know if they're so big on that. At one point, if you were under 21 when you got your learner's permit, or under 18, I should say, when you got your learner's permit, and then now you're over 18, they would require you to have the new over 18 document. I'm not sure if that's still a requirement or not, but just check that too. So if the DMV sends you a new document, which they will do if you were under 18 when you first got your learner's permit. Once you turn 18, they will send you an updated learner's permit. All right, because when you're under 18, it's going to be a class DJ, and when you're over 18 and over, it's going to be a regular class D license. All right, and again, the DMV will automatically send you that. So check that in the mail. Check for that in the mail. I'm not sure again if that's a requirement. It may not be, but just check that. All right, so picture learner's permit ID, New York State DMV issued. MV-278 certificate, MV-262, I believe it's called, for drivers who are under 18. And what else? Oh, a licensed driver and a vehicle. Properly registered, insured vehicle. Okay, now the vehicle you bring, it does not have to be doesn't have to have a New York State plates. What else? It could be any type of vehicle. Well, any type of regular vehicle. So it can't be a truck. It has to be, whatever vehicle you bring has to be in line with the type of license that you are applying for. So regular passenger vehicles, all right? So it could be a van, a regular car, it could be a Jeep. You might not want to take your test in a van, but if you're used to driving a van, you can drive the van really well, you can park it really well, then okay, then there's no reason why you can't use a van for the test. So car, Jeep, van, make sure there are certain restrictions as far as damage to the vehicle. You don't want to have any damage to the vehicle, no damage to really things that the examiner will look at as things that need to be functioning properly for your test. So if there's a crack in the mirror, it's probably not a big deal, but your mirror cannot be completely off. So basically, make sure your car is in good condition. Because if there's something wrong with the vehicle and the examiner doesn't like it, then they might not take out they may not allow you to take your test in that vehicle. And it could be something as simple as the window on their side of the car doesn't roll down, you know, or it's super hot outside, it's 90 degrees outside, and your AC doesn't work. So make sure little things like that are taken care of. You know, most examiners are not super picky, but sometimes you do get somebody that is a little bit picky when it comes to little things like that. But basically a vehicle in good condition. All right, so let me see. Basically, learner's permit, 5-hour class certificate, licensed driver, and a vehicle. Hold on, let me just check something. Somebody's in the chat. Let me see what is it. Somebody said, I think I answered that question already. Okay. Okay. So what to bring? So basically, this is what to bring for your test. Your picture, learner's permit, MV278 certificate. If you're under 18, MV262. You bring a licensed driver and a vehicle. And those last two are important because I have seen people show up to the road test with the first two, and that's it. I have my picture permit, I have my 5-hour class certificate, and I'm here. Now, if you go to other states, you could probably do that. You probably don't need to bring a licensed driver in a vehicle. All right, and in the movies, you will probably see that where people show up to the road test, to the DMV, to their respective DMV office, and they take the road test right there at the on the facilities of the of their DMV office. All right, but New York is not like that. You have to schedule your road test ahead of time. You have to bring certain things, what are the things that I just described here that I listed here. And what else? What was I getting at? Oh, and when you take your road test, you will be driving on a normal New York City road. All right. So they have in New York, they have designated areas for the road test. Okay, so in New York, you have designated areas for the road test. All right, should I put this here? Okay, so in New York, you have designated areas for the road test. Let me just check on. Nobody's really watching on YouTube. All right, that'll work. Okay, so in New York, you have designated areas for the road test. And and you can take your road test pretty much in any area, all right? What you do is if you're scheduling your road test on your own, you go to the DMV website. You can either just, if you can go on the DMV website and look up how to schedule your road test. You can do that right on the DMV website. You can also do it over the phone. It's an all automated system. You don't have to speak directly to anyone. Unless you want to. It's 24 hours. You can schedule every day of the week, and you just go on the website or call the automated system, and you put in your date. It's going to ask you for your year of birth. Then it will ask you for your learner's permit ID number. And then once you put in those two things, then you put in your zip code. And once you put in your zip code, it'll give you a list of different areas where you can schedule your road test. If you want to do your road test in an area that is not near where you live at, where your zip code is at, you can put in any zip code. So put in a zip code that corresponds to the area where you want to take your road test. So if you live in Brooklyn and you want to take your road test in Queens for whatever reason, just put in the Queens zip code. Same thing if you live in Queens and you want to do your road test in Staten Island for whatever reason, then put in a Staten Island zip code. If you are going with a driving school, if you're with a driving school and you're doing a package, usually the package will include your lessons, your 5-hour class, you're scheduling your road test and taking you to the road test. All right. But you should clarify that with your driving school and your driving instructor, because every driving school is different in how they structure their packages. All right. Some will just include lessons and the road test, but the car is not included. So you have to pay extra for the car. So you can clear that up. But most driving schools will provide all of these services. Your driver's lessons, the 5-hour class, they'll be able to schedule the road test for you, and they will be able to provide a vehicle for you. All right. All right. But if you are doing things on your own, you can go, you can take your 5-hour class, you can schedule your road test on your own, and you can show up with your own vehicle. All right. So there's nothing, if you're doing things on your own, there's nothing really that you have to go to a driving school for, except for this, for the 5-hour class. So if you're doing a 5-hour class, That's the only thing that you specifically have to go to a driving school for. Everything else you can kind of sort of do on your own. You might not want to do it on your own. I probably would not advise it, but you can. All right. So and the reason is you in preparation for the road test, which you may gather after you finish taking this class is that it is probably better for you to do some set of driving lessons with a licensed driving school, so that way you know what to expect on your road test and how to do those things and how to meet those expectations. All right, so get driving lessons. So prepare for your road test. So to prepare for your road test, you want to get some type of professional driving lessons. Take your lessons. Take your lessons. Oh, professional driving lessons. Schedule your road test. How should I say this? Oh, space out your lessons. All right, so in preparation for your road test, get professional driving lessons. Even if you think you know how to drive already, it's good to take at least one lesson with the driving school, so that way you can have a better assessment of your driving skills. Because you might think that your driving skills are pretty good, but then when you're sitting in front of somebody else who's judging you based on the rules and technique, it may turn out that you need more practice. All right. And that's typically what happens. So people who come to me, or people who think that their driving is good, and their driving might actually be good for a normal driving situation, it turns out quite often that those driving skills don't translate well to the New York State road test. All right. So it's good to do at least one or two lessons with a licensed driving school to get a better assessment of, are you ready or not? All right. All right, so get professional driving lessons. Evenly space out your lessons according to the date of your road test. And the reason why I say that is because one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they take all of their lessons, they do all of their lessons, and then when they finish their lessons, they have a big gap in between their last lesson and their road test. So you don't want to do that, especially if you're a new driver. If you're a new driver, you want a consistent flow leading up to your test. When you take big gaps like that, a lot of times you get rusty in between. And then, and then what happens is a lot of times you're driving better when you did your last driving lesson than you are when you go take your road test. All right. If you're an experienced driver, then your skills have had time to sink in, and then taking big gaps doesn't affect you as much once you're already a pretty seasoned driver already. But if you're a new driver, what you don't want to have is a large gap in between your last lesson and your road test. Probably not more than a week. 2 weeks is pushing it. All right. All right. So evenly space out your lessons according to your test date. Or what you could do is you could do, if depending on how many lessons you're taking, you could take maybe the bulk of your lessons now, or whenever you start your driving lessons, your training, and then save 1, 2, or 3 lessons for closer to your road test date. I would suggest at least 2 or 3, depending on how your progress and how many lessons you're taking. All right. Another thing is another thing that you don't necessarily want to do is set your mind on you're only taking a certain amount of lessons. You only want 1 lesson. You only want 2 lessons. You're only going to do 5 lessons. I mean, if money is the issue, then fine. You know, you do the best you can within you know that amount of time and money that you have. All right, so you do the best you can. But the reason I say that is that a lot of times what happens is people set their mind on they're only going to do a certain amount of lessons, and then it turns out at the end of those lessons they need more. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a breakdown of overall breakdown of the road test and with the things that they'll be looking for on the road test, and I'll also tell you. I give you a breakdown of the types of things that they're going to ask you to do and how you should prepare yourself, the things you should be practicing on, and how to get better at those things. All right, so prepare for your road test, take professional driving lessons, evenly space out your lessons according to your road test date. Try not to have large gaps. Every time you have a large gap, you lose a little bit. So by large gaps, meaning you do 1 lesson this week, and then another 2, 3 weeks pass, you do another lesson. Another week or 2 passes, you do another lesson, or you do 2 lessons, or you do 3 lessons, and then there's a big gap for like this, like a month gap, and then you come back again, and you restart again. That stopping and restarting, that kind of prolongs the learning process. Some people can stop and pick up right where they left off, but most people will get rusty after a week, 2 weeks of not driving. A good pace to learn to drive at in the beginning, if you've never ever drove before, is maybe like twice a week to begin with. That's a good pace, unless you need to go a little bit or want to go a little bit faster than that. That will work for most people. So twice a week will work for most people. That will put you at a pace where you're probably not going to forget from 1 week, from 1 lesson to the next, if you go at a pace of twice a week. Once you sort of get the hang of everything, like keeping the car straight, making your turns and stuff like that, you sort of got to a level where you feel kind of comfortable, then you could even space it out a little bit more. You don't necessarily have to do twice a week. You could do once a week. Once you've gotten to the point where you kind of understand what's going on and you're comfortable. All right. So maybe if you never ever drove before, maybe your for the first 2 weeks, you do 2 lessons a week. And then after that, that should be good enough. After your 3rd or 4th lesson, most people will start to get a little bit more comfortable. You're not feeling as nervous when you're driving. And then from that point, then you could kind of space it out. Space it out a little bit. You could go once a week. If you go once a week, or whatever amount of spacing you choose to do, if it seems like you are forgetting things from 1 lesson to the next, then you probably need to go at a more frequent pace. But if you are retaining things from 1 lesson to the next, then that means the pace that you're on works for you. It's decent. All right. So try not to have large gaps in your training. All right. So train for your road test, get some lessons, evenly space out your lessons according to your test. Try not to have large gaps. What else? If there's anything else I need to add to that, I'll probably come back to that. All right. Now, as far as the test itself, the things you should be practicing. All right, the things that they're going to be asking you to do on the road test. What to practice? You want to practice on the things that they're going to be asking you to do on the road test. All right. Now, as far as the road test is concerned, it's 4 basic things that they'll ask you to do on your road test. If you're on a Zoom, you can feel free to chime in. Does anybody know? Give me one of the 4 things. It's 4 basic things. So what's one thing that you know that they're going to ask you to do on a road test? 4 basic.
Parallel parking.
Yes. Okay, so parallel parking is 1. Anybody else? Or what's another thing? So there's 4 basic skills. So parallel parking is one of those things. Another one is what else? Have you heard of the 3-point turn?
Yes, I was gonna say the 3-point turn just now. Yeah.
All right, so the 3-point turn is another one. What else? What else? What else? Oh, and the other 2. Anybody have a guess about that?
Would it be turning like?
Yes. Yes, correct. Which one? Your left turns and your right turns. All right. So these are your 4 basic things that they're going to be testing you on a road test. Parallel parking, 3-point turns, left turns, and right turns. And this pretty much is your whole entire test. All right. There'll be other things that they'll ask you to do, or that you should be doing. But as far as what they will specifically ask you to do on a test, it is these 4 things. It doesn't get much more than this. All right. So these are the 4 basic skills that they're testing you on. When they do ask you to do this on a road test, how many times will they ask you to parallel park on a road test?
Is it twice?
You only actually have to parallel park 1 time correctly. How many times with the 3-point turn?
Is it 1 as well?
Yes. And your left turns and your right turns each, how many do you think of those each?
2.
All right, it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 on average. All right, there's no set number or amount, but on average, it works out to about 2 to 4. All right, so this is pretty much your whole entire test. There is one other thing that they can ask you to do, and that is a broken U-turn. What is a broken U-turn? What is a broken U-turn? Broken U-turn is.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here. I hear you.
Isn't the broken U-turn when you're driving, but it's like, I think it's like 2 ways for the directions. Like, isn't it like a 3-point turn? But
yes, exactly. It is exactly a 3-point turn. So a broken U-turn and a 3-point turn are the same thing. All right. What happens? What would you do if your examiner asked you to do a K-turn? So you're taking a road test and your examiner says, do a K-turn. What is a K-turn? Anybody?
is that a K-turn?
Say that again.
When there's not that much space, as a 3-point turn.
It's actually the same exact thing. It's just a different name. So a broken U-turn, a K-turn, and a three-point turn are all exactly the same thing. All right. Let me see if I have a diagram here. Do I have a diagram? I don't know if I have a diagram. Let me see. Do I have a diagram? No, I don't really have a diagram of it. All right, so a three-point turn, a K-turn, and a broken U-turn is all the same thing. So let me just draw it real quickly. So for example, a U-turn would be what? When you, let's say you're in a car here, a U-turn would be what? We just go all the way around in one shot, right? That would be a U-turn. And if you look at it, it's shaped like a what? A U. All right. They call it, now a broken U-turn is called a broken U-turn because the goal is eventually going to be the same thing, which is to go back in the other direction, but you break it up. All right, so you're breaking up the U-turn into separate steps. So you're gonna go here, that is your first step. All right? And then you go into reverse. That is your second step. And then you're going to finish it, which is your third step. All right? So a U-turn, a broken U-turn is just a U-turn broken into separate steps. The amount of steps are how many?
4.
3.
3, I'm sorry.
3 steps. That's why it's also called a what? A three-point turn. All right, and these are the steps, the points. 1, 2, 3. All right, and if you look at that diagram that I have up there, that U shape changed to kind of sort of what letter shape? If you look at this diagram, what shape is that? If you look at it sideways, what is it shaped like? Like the letter K. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like a letter K on the side. All right, and that's why it's called a K-turn. All right, so a three-point turn, a broken U-turn, and a K-turn is all exactly the same thing. Most examiners will refer to it as either a three-point turn or a broken U-turn. You won't have that many that refer to it as a K-turn, but every once in a while you do. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times, well, I won't say a lot, but I have seen it before where I've seen a student fail the road test because the examiner asked them to do a K-turn and they didn't know what the hell he was talking about. They knew what a broken U-turn was, and they knew that a broken U-turn and a three-point turn was the same thing, but they have never heard of it called a K-turn. All right. If that happens to you, say the examiner asks you to do a K-turn, what do you do? And you don't know what they're asking you to do. Do you do nothing? Do you just wing it? Do you ask them, what is that? What is the best thing to do there?
The best thing to do is ask.
Okay, right. So you would ask. So, and I've had students who were in that situation and they asked the examiner, okay, what's a K-turn? Now, once you do the test, will the examiner be likely to explain to you what that is, or will they expect you to know what it is?
They would expect you to know what it is.
All right. When you take the road test, once that test starts, most examiners will expect you to know what they are asking you to do, whatever that thing is. Now, you can ask for clarification on certain things, and some examiners are will be more open to explaining things than others. Every examiner is a little bit different in how they conduct the test, but they are not supposed to tell you how to do something. So they can explain certain things to you for clarification, but they are not supposed to guide you and tell you how to do a particular thing or how to do a particular skill. Now, in this situation, you just don't know what a K-turn is. You're not really asking them how to do a K-turn, or maybe you are because you don't know what a K-turn is. But it would be, but I have seen it where students have been in this situation. They've asked the examiner, what is a K-turn? And the examiner just repeated themselves like, please do a K-turn. Now, I don't know if the student asked it like that, what is a K-turn? Or if they said, how do I do a K-turn? You know, now if you say, and now there's a difference, you know, if you say, how do I do a K-turn? The examiner may not answer you because now you're asking them how to do basically a 3-point turn, how to do it. But if you say, what is a K-turn? Maybe they will be more likely to tell you, oh, a K-turn is the same thing as a 3-point turn. Or it may be where they feel like you should know already and they may not say anything. All right, but in either case, the reason I bring this up is so that way this doesn't happen to you on a test. Because that's a silly way to fail the test. If you fail because you didn't know the terminology, one of the terms for a broken U-turn was a K-turn. That's a silly way to fail, especially when you know how to do it. All right, so remember that, and that's pretty much the only thing that I could think of that has several different names that it goes by. I can't think of anything else like that, except for maybe stop signs. Stop signs, I might get to that. I'm not sure if I will get to that, but stop signs are another thing where you have different derivatives of the same thing. For example, you have stop signs. You have a normal stop sign. How many different types of stop signs are there? Anybody? All right, so you have a normal stop sign, and then you have an always stop sign. There's also something that you might not come across that often. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to it. All right, I'm just gonna put it down here. Okay. All right, so you have a normal stop sign, you have an always stop sign, and you have an imaginary stop sign. All right, at a normal stop sign, you're gonna have a stop sign and when two roads intersect with each other, all right? So you will have a stop sign when two roads intersect with each other, all right? When that happens, if it's a normal stop sign, then the traffic on how many roads have to stop? One or two? On both roads or only one? Okay. So stop signs located at the intersection of two roads. If it's a normal stop sign, then only traffic on one road has to stop. At an all-way stop sign, who has to stop?
Both sides. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Okay, so at an always stop sign, traffic on both roads has to stop. All right. Now, sometimes every once in a while, you have derivatives of the always stop sign. So sometimes there is such a thing as a three-way sign, three-way stop. But you don't really see that too much in the 5 boroughs. If you go outside of the 5 boroughs, you might have odd situations where you have one direction of traffic that has a right of way that has no stop sign at all, and then the other 3 directions have to stop. So you may have that. You may have odd situations like that. Okay. Then you have an imaginary stop sign. Now, an imaginary stop sign is going to be, nope. An imaginary stop sign, that will typically happen in places where the stop sign should be implied. So, for example, one example I will give of this is one place where you will see this, not a lot, but in certain places, is let's say you are coming down this road here. All right. And you have a car here going in this direction. You have a car here going in that direction. You are going in this direction. All right, so let's say you're car 1, this is car 2, and this is car 3. All right. All right, so let's say you are car 1, all right? And your road comes to an end. So at this intersection, you have to either make a left or you have to make a right. All right. Car 2 and 3 are already on that particular road that you will have to turn onto. They have a choice of either going straight or turning into your road. All right, who has the right of way here? Car 1, car 2, or car 3? And neither one of them has a stop sign. Nobody has a stop sign and there's no traffic light. Anybody?
Is it the car that get there first?
That would happen if everybody has to stop here. But everybody does not have to stop. All right, so if that was an always stop sign where everybody has to stop and everybody has a stop sign, then the rule would be the person that gets to their stop sign first has a right of way to proceed first. But in this situation, nobody has a stop sign. All right. In that situation, it is implied when you have two roads intersecting with each other, it is going to be implied here that somebody has an implied stop sign, an imaginary stop sign. It is that person's duty to come to a full stop and not the other road. All right. So if that's the case here, which road do you think would have the right of way? Let's say this is road A. Oh, wait. Let's see. Cars 2 and 3 are on road A. Car 1 is on road B.
Road A has the right of way.
Okay. And just off the top, you might not know exactly the reason, but why? What was your reasoning for saying road A?
I said road A because it looks like the road, what you call it? When the road, the opposite. So car 2 is going one way, car 3 is going the other way. And then it's only car 1 that has one way to go.
Right, correct. So you kind of sort of on the right track. I think what you're saying is cars 2 and 3 have more options, correct?
Yes.
Cars 2 and 3 can choose to go straight or they can choose to turn. Car 1, the only thing they can do at this intersection is make a left. Well, actually, car 1 has two options too. He can go to the left or he can make a right. But the difference is cars 2 and 3 have more options in terms of the road or roads that they can travel on. All right. So for car 1, his only option, his only choice here is to do is either not to enter that road and do a U-turn, or if he's going to enter that road, or to enter that road, cars 3 and 2 do not have to leave their road to continue doing what they're doing. All right, car 1 to enter this intersection would have to leave his road and enter road A. All right, now if this road was not a dead end road for car 1, then he would have the option to go straight. But in that situation, then both roads technically would have the right of way here. And you cannot have a situation that's an uncontrolled intersection where both traffic has the right to go straight or the ability to continue on their road and going straight and not have some type of control where there's a stop sign or a traffic light. All right. So you can't have roads in a real life situation where that look like this. That look like this, and there's no stop sign or traffic light for anybody. That would be extremely dangerous. And the only time you will see that in some rural areas where there's not a lot of traffic, it's like a country road, then you may have roads like this. And they'll probably do that because there's not a lot of traffic and the visibility, and you can see who's coming. You know, it might be some area where you can obviously see as you approach an intersection if somebody's coming from the other road or not. So in those situations, they may not have stop signs or traffic lights because there's very little traffic in those areas and the visibility is good. But in the city, you cannot have an uncontrolled intersection like this because there will be accidents. All right, it's too much traffic, cars driving too fast, and the visibility is poor. All right, so when you have a road that is blocked off, where road B has no option to go straight, then that takes away the right of way of the traffic on road B. All right, so just right of way, I usually get into that a little bit later in the class, but right of way is a big issue in terms of driving and in terms of the road test. All right, so I'll go into that a little bit, but it's very important. Right of way, the rules of the right of way are probably the most important rules of the road that you want to, that you need to understand as best as you can. Because the rules of the right of way tell you in any particular situation who is supposed to go first. All right. And the reason why you have a rule that determines who goes first is so that way cars who are following those rules can avoid getting into what? Accidents. Right, accidents. All right. So that is probably the most important set of rules for the road is who has the right to go first in any particular situation. All right, now in this particular situation here, where road B ends, basically what is happening here is car one, the only choice here is to make a turn. The choices for cars 2 and 3 are either to go straight or turn. All right, whenever somebody has a right of way, they will naturally have the right of way when they are going straight. Anybody that is turning, when somebody is, when a car that is going straight meets another car that is turning, the car that most likely has a right of way in that situation is going to be which one? The car going straight or the car that's turning? The car that's going straight. Right, the car that's going straight. Okay, so in this situation, the cars on road A have both the option to turn and go straight. The cars on road B only have the option to turn. So in that sense, in terms of the right of way, it's going to make more sense that the roads on car A have the right of way here. And that means that if anybody has to stop here, or if anybody has what we call an imaginary stop sign or an implied stop sign, it's going to be the traffic on which road? Road A or road B? If anybody has an implied or imaginary stop sign here, is going to be the traffic on road B. All right. So if you're taking your road test and you reach your area and you say you're on road B and you are car 1, then you reach this intersection here and there's no stop sign. There's no stop sign. You look and there's no traffic on road A. Do you come to a full stop or do you continue?
You continue.
Okay, so again, let's say you're on road B, you're car 1. You reach this intersection, you cannot go straight. You have to make a left or right. As you get here, again, there's no stop sign for anybody on any road, and you see that there's no traffic on road A. Do you go ahead and make your turn, or do you have to stop before you make your turn?
Well, you have to stop before you make your turn.
Okay, now where do you stop at? Do you stop before the crosswalk or after the crosswalk?
You stop before the crosswalk.
Even though you don't have a stop sign? A
Yeah.
physical stop sign? Yes, that's correct. So even though you don't have a physical stop sign here, the examiner will expect you to come to a full stop before the crosswalk. And then you move up. Do you have to make a second stop?
Can you repeat that?
After you make your first stop, do you have to move up and then make a second stop?
You should make a second stop and then like look both ways before you do your turn.
Okay, good. So you should move up and make a second stop. Why? Because you're the only one that technically has a stop sign. So even though there's no physical stop sign here, you have an implied stop sign because your road is the one that's coming to an end. So it's on you, it's gonna be on you to realize that, come to a full stop here at the crosswalk, check for pedestrians, allow them to cross if there's anybody. Even if there aren't any pedestrians, you still have to make a full stop. And then you move up and then you stop again, a second stop, to check for traffic to make sure that it really is clear. And then you proceed, all right? You will not see that situation very often, but some areas do have roads like that. For Brooklyn, I think there's a section of road like that in Coney Island, at the Coney Island road test site. I'm not sure if you see that any other locations, but it is possible. Red Hook, you might possibly have a situation like that. I can't think of a specific street off the top of my head, but you do have roads like that. Queens, you probably, depending on where you take your road test at in Queens, you probably, it's a chance that you can see a road like this. I do know one road like this in Jamaica, Queens, at the Jamaica Queens road test site, and it's possible you may have other roads like this in other locations. All right, so it's important for you to know that. So this is something that you don't get to practice on a lot in a normal driving situation, but it is something that you could find yourself, a situation you could find yourself in on your road test. And that's one of the tricky things about the road test is it's hard to practice for every single type of scenario and thing you can possibly come across on your road test. It's impossible to practice for everything because most of you are only taking 5, 10, maybe 15 lessons. And even if you're taking 10 or 15 lessons, that's not enough lessons a lot of times to experience every single different type of scenario that you're going to be in. All right. You're just using those lessons to learn the 4 basic things that I talked about earlier, which is parallel parking, 3-point turns, broken U-turns, and your 3-point turns, parallel parking, and your left turns and your right turns. All right, you're spending most of the time learning those things. You're not really spending that time learning how to do the other stuff like observe properly, learning the rules of the road in terms of right of way. Practicing in various types of driving conditions in preparation for your road test. All right. All right. The DMV recommends, if you have the learner's manual, if you ever read the learner's manual, the DMV recommends how many hours of driving? Anybody know? Anybody know how many hours of driving the DMV Learner's Manual recommends?
I don't know. Is it 40?
Yeah, you're about right. You're about right. It's either 40 or 50. And I think where you are right is that I think it says recommends is 2 C's or 1 C? It's probably 1 C. Looks like 1 C. Recommends. Is it 1 C or 2 C's? Anybody? All right, we're gonna go with 1 C. The DMV Learner's Manual recommends 50 hours of driving. And I think it says with 10 of those hours being at what?
Nighttime.
Right. All right. Now, realistically, not that many people are doing that. All right. But they do recommend that. Why do you think they recommend 50 hours of driving with 10 of those hours being at night? Why do you think that is? Do you think that after 50 hours, if you actually drove, if you had 50 driving lessons, 10 of them being at night, do you think you'd be a pretty good driver after that?
Yeah.
Probably. How long do you think it takes the average person to feel comfortable on the road after they got their driver's license? Is it right away?
A while.
How long? A while. All right. I would say about a year. I would say a year of consistent driving to feel like you're comfortable, or I say confident. I won't even say all, I'll say most. So I would say it takes on average about a year of consistent driving to feel like you are competent in most driving situations. All right. So the DMV recommends those hours so that way it's almost like, in a way, in a year, if you if you have your own car, you'll probably do more than 50 hours. But if you don't have your own car, it's probably good. You probably you probably will average around 50 hours for the whole year if you don't have your own vehicle. Even if some of you, if you have your own vehicle, you may only drive it once a week, you know, on the weekends or something like that. If you have your own vehicle, you probably drive every day, you know, if you know, especially if you're a young guy, you know, like me, when I first got my car, you know, as soon as I got it, I would, I would drive around the corner to the store, just to drive, you know. So even doing that, driving just to the one block to the store, just to drive. Even doing that, it took me about a year of consistently driving like that to feel competent in most driving situations. In that year, there was always something that said, you know, that made me feel a little bit nervous, like, oh, okay, I'm not that good yet. Or it made me feel nervous. It took about a year for that nervousness to fully go away. All right. All right, so the DMV recommends that those amount of hours so that way that ideally, if you've had that much driving, you're probably going to be a pretty competent driver. You're also probably, because you're a pretty competent driver, you've had that much hours of driving experience, you've probably put yourself in a lot of different driving scenarios, a lot of different roads, a lot of different driving situations you've experienced, and because of all of that, you'll probably have a better chance of passing a road test. That's one. The second reason why that's good is So it gives you a better chance to pass on the road test. And the second reason, which is probably more important to them, is it makes you less likely to get into what? When you get your license, it makes you less likely to get into what?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So if you've had 50 hours of driving, 10 of them being at night, when you pass your road test, you'll probably be less likely to get into what as a new driver?
You said get into?
Yeah, what is less likely to happen if you've had 50 hours of driving?
Like she said, an accident.
Right. That's probably what they're mostly concerned with. All right, so gives you a better chance of passing the road test, and it makes you less likely to get into accidents after you've passed your test. At what point how long after you pass your test are you eligible to drive by yourself? I'll fix this.
Is it right after?
Okay, is it, let me see, let me do it like a multiple choice. Right away, after a few weeks, or when you get the license in the mail? Okay, so how long after you pass your road test?
When you get the license in the mail?
I think it's right away.
It's actually right away. It's actually right away, all right? So once you pass your road test and you log into, wait till 6 o'clock and you log into the DMV website and you check and you see your results that you passed, you, from that moment forward, you are a licensed driver. Congratulations. You can get in a car, you can drive on your own, all right? That's if you're over 18. You know, if you're under 18, then you still have some restrictions, and you may still need a licensed driver in the vehicle if you are under 18, even though you have your driver's license. All right, but if you're over 18, once you pass your road test, you got your test results, you are eligible to drive by yourself right away. All right. Okay, now the question is, next question is, are you ready? Are you really ready?
Isn't that a question you could only ask yourself?
Yes, but that is also what the road test is about. All right. Part of the examiner's job, and maybe their main function of the road test, is to determine, are you ready to be on the road by yourself? Right away.
If they pass you, then yeah, you're ready to be on the road.
Well, that's their determination. That's part of their job. You can be, once they determine that you got your license, then yes, they've determined based on what they see that they feel that you are ready to be on the road by yourself. Is that, do you think that's always true for everybody?
No.
Okay.
Because
Now,
I feel
that
like,
is,
oh,
I'm listening.
because I feel like, okay, let's say I do a 3-point turn and like I do it good, but it wasn't as good. They could say, okay, they could still tell you what you need to work on, like what you did well on and what you need to work on. But they could say, like, maybe you should practice it more and then you'll be ready.
Okay, that can happen. So the examiner's job is basically to determine, are you ready? It's their job to determine, are you ready? They have a certain criteria. And I'm gonna try to get, during this class, I'm gonna try to give you a sense of what their criteria is. All right, so they have a certain type of criteria that they go by, all right? And it goes back to these 4 things here: parallel parking, 3-point turns, left turns, and right turns. So part of their criteria is, can this person do these 4 things well enough for me to pass them? All right. So it starts with these 4 things. If you cannot do these 4 things well enough, then they will fail you. All right. Now, that does not mean that you have to be perfect at these 4 things, okay? It just means that you must do them well enough in their eyes and their determination in order to pass. All right, so you have to know what is considered a good parallel park, what's not considered a good parallel park, what's considered a good 3-point turn, what's considered not a good 3-point turn. And the same thing goes for your left turns and right turns. You want to have a sense, before you go to your road test, you want to have a sense of, how well you are doing with these things. You want to have a realistic sense. Parallel parking, when you prepare for your road test, you don't have to be perfect with the parallel parking, but you have to stay away from certain mistakes. So I'll try to go over that as we go along. But this is part of their criteria, these 4 basic things. Also, they'll be looking, so you want to do those 4 basic skills. You got to show them that you know how to do those 4 basic skills. You got to show them that you have good observation skills. Most people do not. You have to show them that you have a good knowledge of the right-of-way rules, which is what I talked about briefly. You have to show them that you're safe. You know the rules of the road. And basically, everything that's on this paper. So if you look at the paper, again, this paper is a list of mistakes. These are the typical mistakes that people make on a road test. And these are the different aspects of the road test that they're going to be judging you by. So A is leaving the curb. So that's when you first pull out into traffic. You're going to be pulling out into traffic when you first start the test. You're going to also pull out into traffic after you finish parallel parking. And the third time that you're going to be pulling out into traffic is when you're about to do your 3-point turn. All right. So when you're pulling out into traffic, there's certain things that they require you to do correctly. You know, put it on your signal, checking for traffic, things like that. So if you look at that, you'll see number 1 says fails to observe. Number 2, fails to signal. Number 3, uses mirror only, fails to check blind spot. All about signaling and observing. All right. So those are the things you're required to do well when you're pulling out into traffic. So if you don't do those things well, then you can take off points. All right, the second section, which is section B, turns and intersections. That means that section, anything in that section is going to be related to your left turns and your right turns. So they'll be looking at, how you make your turns. Are they too wide? Are they too short? Are they too slow? Are they too fast? Are you winding up in the correct lane when you make your turn? Are you observant? So those are the types of things they'll be checking for when you're making your turns. All right. And then section C is parking and backing and U-turn, which is basically your parallel parking and your 3-point turns. All right. So they'll be looking for that. So parallel parking, I'll try to go over that. You're supposed to do your parallel parking within 3 steps. Supposed to do your parallel parking within 3 steps. You know that the thing that fails you automatically with the parallel parking is what? Everybody knows if you do this one thing with the parallel parking, it's an automatic fail. What is that?
If you hit the curb.
If you hit the curb. So everybody knows that hitting the curb when you parallel parking is an automatic fail. If you didn't know that, now you know. Okay, 3-point turns, obviously based on the name alone, tells you that it must be done in how many steps. 3-point turn must be done in how many steps?
3.
3, all right? If you do a 5-point turn, that could be a fail. If you do a 1-point turn, which is a U-turn instead of a 3-point turn, that could be a fail. Now, when you make mistakes on a road test, the examiners have some leeway with certain mistakes, all right? Certain mistakes, they have a little bit of leeway and they can let you do it again, all right? Certain mistakes are automatic fails, all right? So once you do a mistake that is considered an automatic fail, the examiner does not have that much leeway. Their rules that they are supposed to follow say that when you make certain types of mistakes, they are supposed to fail you. That is an automatic fail. So that's another part of the guidelines that they go by. All right. So I'll try to give you an idea of the types of mistakes that could fail you automatically. I won't be able to get to everything because I can think of, there's some mistakes that's listed on this paper that are automatic fails. But most of the things that can fail you automatically are not even listed on this paper. I could think of probably 100 different ways you can fail the road test that's not specifically listed on this paper here. All right, so anyway, going back to this paper and the sections on here. So parking, 3-point turn, that's section C. Section D is driving in traffic. That's pretty much going to be the other things that I talked about, like observation, how you interact with traffic, how slow you're driving, how fast you're driving, your right of way, how you deal with other vehicles, and how you deal with pedestrians. Also, how you anticipate potential problems. What do you do? Are you good at anticipating potential problems? That's section D. Section E is your vehicle control. That is, again, vehicle control is going to come into play with your brake. Are you braking correctly? Your gas, are you pressing the gas correctly? Too hard or too soft? Same thing with the brake. Are you pressing your brakes too abruptly or too soft? You'll see that where it says, where is it? Number 28, delayed braking or abrupt braking. You see that with number 26, where it says poor engine control / acceleration. All right, poor engine control / acceleration. The difference is two things that you have to be careful of when you're pressing the gas. It's your overall speed, which is how fast you're driving. We know the speed limit for the local roads is what? Anybody? What is the speed limit for the local roads?
25.
25 is the speed limit for the local roads. All right, so we know that over 25, you can get a ticket. If you drive over 25 on a road test, could that be a fail?
Yes.
Yes, that could. Number 19, wait, let me see. No, not number 19, number 18. Number 18 says speed. Oh, man, if you don't have the paper, I'll just make it bigger. Number 18 on the paper says speed excessive for conditions. How many points do you see there associated with number 18?
15.
15 points. If the maximum amount of points you can get is 30, is 15 a lot of points?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to come back to it, or may come back to it, but I will say this. If you look at this paper, just look at the paper while I'm talking. Anything that you see on this paper that's a 15-point mistake is usually an automatic fail. How many things do you see on this paper that are 15 points altogether? How many altogether?
A lot.
A lot. There's 6 of them. There's number 11, which is unable to park properly. Number 12, unable to make a 3-point turn. Number 18, speed excessive for conditions. Number 19, too slow, impedes traffic flow. Number 20, fails to get the right of way. And number 27, poor steering control. All right. Now, going back, so those are all automatic fail types of mistakes. All right. Now, when you those are all automatic fail types of mistakes. Everything else, the 5-point and 10-point mistakes, those mistakes, when you get them, they typically will not fail you automatically, but those mistakes can also fail you if you do them bad enough or often enough. So any mistake on this paper can fail you if you make that particular mistake bad enough or often enough. So for example, it could be a 5-point mistake, you know, like you failing to signal. But if you never put on your signal throughout the whole entire test, but you do everything else well, could you fail for that?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you get a ticket for not putting on your signal in a real life driving situation? So you're driving on the road. Can you get a ticket for not putting on your signal?
Yes.
Yes, you could. That will fall under, oh, I didn't want to do that. Lose the whole thing. That could fall under the bottom here where it says reasons for disqualification. And it has that section here where it says serious violation. Serious violations are typically mistakes that in a real life situation, you could get a moving violation for. That is a ticket from a cop. So serious violations on a road test are usually equate to moving violations in a real life scenario. All right. Okay. Now, in terms of speed, there's 2 things here that relate to speed, which is number 18 and number 26. All right. Now, the difference here, this is a good example because number 18, if you're driving excessive for conditions, that is an automatic fail, which is 15 points. And normally when people fail for number 18, it is because they were driving over the speed limit, which is 25. So 26, 27, 28, that's all what? A fail. All right. So be careful of your speed on a road test. If I had to say an average speed to drive at on a road test, I would say you probably want to stay at around 23 miles per hour. That will change depending on the type of roads you're on. There are some roads where 23 is too fast and you should probably drive slower. There are some roads with 23 might be considered too slow and you should drive closer to 25 or at 25. So that you will have to determine that based on the type of road or situation you're in at that moment. All right. Just like you could fail for driving too fast, can you fail the road test for driving too slow? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes, you can fail a road test for driving too slow. That is number 19, which says too slow / impeach traffic flow. All right. Going back to driving too fast. Now, there's two things that come into play with your speed and how fast you're driving. Number 18, where you're just simply driving too fast. You're over the speed limit or you're driving too fast for whatever the situation is. And then you have number 26, which says poor engine control / acceleration. So the difference here is acceleration. Poor acceleration is different than poor speed. Acceleration is basically how fast or how quickly are you getting up to a certain speed. So acceleration, so for example, acceleration is basically how long is it taking you to get from 5 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour? Is it taking you 2 seconds to get there, or is it taking you 2 minutes?
2 seconds.
All right, if you go from 5 to 25, is that too fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, that means you're probably flooring it, right? You probably have your foot all the way down to the floor, your gas pedal. That would probably be too fast. But on the opposite side, if it's taking you 2 minutes to get from 5 miles per hour all the way up to 25 miles per hour, is that too slow?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be too slow. All right, so that's acceleration. All right, so an example of that is if you're ever in a car with your driving instructor or me, and you're driving at you're driving at a certain miles per hour, and your driving instructor says slow down a little bit, and you look down at your speedometer and you see that you're barely at 20 miles per hour. Is that person telling you to slow down because your speed is too fast or your acceleration is too fast?
Acceleration.
It probably means your acceleration is too fast. So if you ever heard of the term, somebody has a lead foot, that's what that means. Somebody has a heavy feet, that's what that means. It means they're accelerating too fast. All right, not that you're going fast at the moment. Another reason why your driving instructor might say slow down and you look down at your speedometer and see that you're not really driving that fast could be for another reason. Another reason that could be is number 23 and 24. What is the most important word in the sentences 23 and sentence 23 and sentence 24? What is the most important word in those two sentences?
Fails or
Maybe. But let's pick a different word.
Anticipate.
Anticipate, right. So what does it mean to anticipate?
To not do what's being asked of you.
Well, to anticipate something means that you have the ability to do what? If somebody says, let's say you say, oh, I anticipated that she was going to do that. That means you were able to do what? What is another way of saying anticipate? If you were able to anticipate what somebody was going to do before they did it, that means you have the ability to do what? Well, it means two things. Either you are clairvoyant and you have the ability to see the future, or you have the ability to read somebody's mind, or based on what they were doing prior to, you could extrapolate or predict what they were about to do. All right. So that's what anticipate means. Another way of saying anticipate means to predict. All right. When you predict something, a lot of times we're not clairvoyant. You can't see the future. You can't read other people's minds. But have you heard that phrase? Don't just drive for yourself. Drive for what?
Other people.
Right. Basically, what that phrase is telling you to do is telling you to anticipate, that you need to anticipate. What that means is put yourself in somebody else's shoes and try to figure out what they're going to do before they do it. All right, that's what anticipating means. All right, being able to look at a situation, take in the information that you see, and based on your experience may tell you that, oh, when people usually drive like this, they're about to do that. All right, that's what anticipating means. All right, and that's what happened, and that's why we have that word in number 23 and number 24. Number 23 says fails to anticipate actions of others. So that's what we were just talking about where I say, don't just drive for yourself, drive for others. All right, and the reason why this is an important skill is because you want to be able to predict what somebody's going to do before they do it, because that means you're less likely to get into what with that person? An accident. All right. You want to be able to anticipate potential hazards. That way you can stay out of that hazard. A hazard is a potential for an accident. That's number 24. So you want to be able to anticipate potential problems that can happen on a road. So sometimes when, as an instructor, I may tell somebody to slow down a little bit because I anticipate a potential hazard coming up that person, as a new driver, doesn't yet have the ability to anticipate. All right. And as new drivers, you're just by definition, you are not going to be good at anticipating potential problems and the actions of others. Why? Because you do not have enough experience on the road to be able to do that well. All right. You do have an experience as pedestrians. And what you have to do, though, is you have to translate those same skills that you use as a pedestrian and you're walking down the road and you're crossing the street. You have to translate those same skills that you use when you're walking to when you're driving. And a lot of times people don't realize that the skills that you use as a pedestrian are very similar to those same skills you need to use as a driver. A little bit more so because in a car, you're driving faster. All right, so those skills you would have as a pedestrian, you have to be able to utilize them in a quicker, more decisive manner because you're on the road and you're driving a dangerous weapon, basically. All right. All right, so basically, I gave you a rundown of this paper. So it goes from sections A to section E. Those are the different aspects of what they're testing you on. Vehicle control, your driving in traffic, your rules of the road, your parallel parking, your three-point turns, your left turns and your right turns, and pretty much your observation. All right, so those are the basic things that they're testing you on. Let me see, let me go back to where was that? Yeah, so that's so those four basic things, four basic skills, your observation skills, your right-of-way rules, how are you driving safely, and are you following the rules of the road? All right, now, and that's basically the criteria that they're going by. If they feel that you're safe, they feel that you're following the rules, you demonstrate a good knowledge of the right of way, your observation skills are good, and you're doing you do those four basic things well, then you're gonna pass the test. All right, now, again, you do not have to be perfect with these things. You do not have to be perfect with the parallel parking. You don't have to be perfect with your 3-point turns. You don't have to be perfect with your left turns and right turns. But you do have to be within certain guidelines that they allow for those particular skills. All right, so I'll try to go over that so you have an overview of that. Okay, things you want to practice. Where is that? Where did I put that? Don't want to go back. Preparing for your road test. Oh, here we go. Okay. So going back to preparing for your road test. So you want to get professional driving lessons. Want to evenly space out your lessons according to the date of your test. Once you know where your road test is going to be.
Do we get to pick where our road test is gonna be?
You can.
How do I schedule a road test on this site? I didn't see how.
On my website. Well, if you want me to do it, then just I'll give you the information to schedule it. I'm not sure if you're one of Damon's students. If you're one of Damon's students, then you can just do it through him. Or I could also tell you how to. If you're just doing everything separate on your own, I could tell you how to do that too.
All right.
So practice according to your test site. So once you know where your test is going to be, try to practice on similar roads and situations as your test site, because every test site is different and will have different challenges. So practice according to your test site. What else? Oh, try to get as much you want to progress from when you first starting from progress from so you want to progress from smaller roads with light traffic to bigger roads and intersections that have heavier traffic. All right, so that's important to prepare yourself because every area is different, and you may not know what to expect from that area. But if you practice in a lot of different scenarios, you'll be more prepared for the road test. Not every area has lane switching. Most areas do not have switching, do not have roads where you'll be asked to switch lanes, but it is something you should probably practice in preparation for the road test. With parallel parking, parallel parking will always be done on the right-hand side of the road. They will usually give you a big space, but one thing you might want to practice is not a lot. I wouldn't spend a lot of time doing this, but try practicing. Get some practice on smaller spaces. Make sure you know how to straighten your steering wheel. That's an important skill for your parallel parking, and it helps in other areas too. Sometimes you make mistakes with the parallel parking. When you do make mistakes with the parallel parking, sometimes you can wind up too far from the curb. Sometimes you can wind up too close to the curb, but without hitting it. If you are too close to the curb or you're too far, will the examiner give you an opportunity to fix that? Okay, so make sure you learn how to fix a bad parallel park, because most examiners will, as long as you didn't hit the curb, most examiners will give you an opportunity to fix it. You just have to make sure you stay under a certain amount of steps. So parallel parking, get some practice in smaller spaces, learn how to straighten out your steering wheel, try to learn how to fix a bad parallel park, learn how to adjust your mirrors. Which mirror on your vehicle will help you the most when you're parallel parking? Anybody?
You said, what was the question?
Which mirror on your vehicle will help you the most when you're parallel parking?
Hold on. Isn't it not the, is it the side mirror?
Which one? The passenger side or your driver's side?
The passenger side.
Okay, the passenger side will help you most. There's a way you can use your driver's side mirror to help you too, but the one that will help you the most is your passenger side mirror. Why? Because it's on the side that you're going to be parking. You're most likely going to be parking on the right-hand side, which is your passenger side, which is closest to the curb. And you have knowing how to utilize and fix your mirror to help you see how close you're getting to the curb will help you greatly in being able to parallel park. All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
You see how when we're doing the lessons with you guys, we're able to adjust our mirror and stuff. Will we be able to do that on the road test?
Yes. I have not heard of the examiners having a problem with that. The only issue I would say there that you want to be careful of is that when you are using your mirror to help you parallel park, make sure that as you're reversing, you're also doing what? In addition to using your mirror, you should also be doing what while you're reversing?
Looking behind you.
Looking over your shoulder, right? So you want to learn how to look back and forth. So you're going to be looking behind you, over your right shoulder, out the back window, out the center rear window, and you're going to be glancing back and forth to check your side mirror to see how close you're getting to the curb. All right. So make sure you're doing both. If you're doing both, then the examiner's not going to have a problem with you adjusting your mirrors for the test. Yeah, I have not heard of them having an issue with that. You know, I've been doing it a long time. So back in the day, the examiners didn't want you to adjust the mirror like that, but it was only one or two of them. It may be one or two examiners who didn't want you to move the mirror like that. And the only issue they had usually was that if you spend too much time looking in that mirror, then you weren't looking behind you as you were reversing. That was their main issue with that. Nowadays, I have not heard of any examiner having a problem with somebody specifically moving the mirror down to park and then moving it back up to conduct the rest of the test. Even back in the day when the mirrors had when the examiners had a slight, when it was one or two examiners that had a slight problem with people adjusting the mirror like that, what I would do is I would tell the student to fix the mirror down to help them parallel park at the beginning of the test, so that way they don't have to try to readjust it in the middle of the test. All right, and if you do that, then examiner can't say anything because you adjust your mirrors at the beginning of the test the way you feel will help you best. They cannot tell you how to fix your mirrors because you have to fix your mirrors according to what you want to see, not what they want, or not according to what they think you should be seeing. All right, and that's when you first start the test. When you get in the car, you adjust your mirrors according to how you want them. All right. So back in the day, I would tell students to fix their mirrors down and in to help them parallel park, and just leave it that way for the entire test. That way you don't risk some type of issue with that the examiner might have with you readjusting the mirrors. All right, nowadays, I don't tell anybody that. I just tell them, okay, just when you get there, you can move it down. When you finish, you can move it back up. All right, I have not heard of examiners having an issue with that. All right, but if you, for some reason, you're nervous about doing it, then you could do it the way I just described it, which is fix it that way from the beginning and leave it that way. And the reason that will most likely work to your favor is because the only reason you need that side mirror up is to see traffic when, or maybe even bicycles when you're switching lanes or moving from the left to the right. And on a road test, you're not going to be doing a lot of that. You're not going to be doing a lot of switching from the left to the right lane. And even if you are, you can still see what you're switching. You can still see traffic by doing what? Checking your rearview mirror and doing the other thing that you're supposed to be doing anyway, which is what? Checking your blind spot, looking over your shoulder. All right. So, for example, if you had your mirror down to help you parallel park and you leaving it down for the rest of the test, sometimes people say, "Oh, well, I won't be able to see traffic." I said, "Well, my counter to that is that just make sure you use your mirror. One, you're not going to be switching that lanes that often. Two, whenever you are, just rely on your rearview mirror and looking over your shoulder, which are two things you're supposed to be doing anyway when you're switching lanes." All right. Parallel parking. Oh, 3-point turns. Practice on a road where you don't have a lot of space. It's a relatively narrow road. Practice on a road that has moderate traffic. and practice on a really wide road. And the reason why you want to do this in these situations is because and when you're doing your 3-point turn on a narrow road, the problem is going to be not having enough space to do it in 3 steps. The problem with doing a 3-point turn on a road with some traffic is that you're going to be nervous about the other traffic being there and being impatient with you, and you may feel rushed. So you want to practice on roads that have a decent amount of traffic, not moderate traffic, not heavy traffic, but moderate traffic, so that way you can get your nerves up in that situation. So that way, when those cars are waiting on you or honking at you, you are not rushing yourself. Also, it teaches you observation. It teaches you to look left and right and check and be and anticipate what other vehicles are going to do. Because if they don't want to see you there and they're going to try to get around you, they may do odd or crazy things to try to go around you, even though you're in the middle of the road. So doing it in some traffic teaches you how to deal with that. And then the wide road, you might think that's a good thing for a broken U-turn, but the problem there is that you have too much space. And when you have too much space to do the 3-point turn, a lot of times, sometimes every once in a while, what somebody does is they take the test, and then when they get right here, they realize they have enough space, and instead of stopping, they do what? They go all the way around and do a U-turn instead of a 3-point turn. If you get an examiner that's a little bit on the lenient side, they might let that slide, and then they may just ask you to do it again, do it over the correct way. But a lot of examiners, if you did do a U-turn when they asked you to do a 3-point turn, that a lot of times that's an automatic fail.
Can you zoom back out again so I could screenshot it?
Oh, okay. What where I just talked about the U-turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I got it.
Okay, so 3-point turns, that's what you want to do. Left and right turns. What can I say about left and right turns? Okay, left and right turns, what I would say with that. Turns, I think various types of roads also. You want to do left turns onto multi-lane 2-way roads. Right turns with a bike lane. Turning lanes. Roads that have turning lanes, roads that have turning arrows. Busy intersections. Mainly left turns. What else? Okay. So, as far as turning, besides the mechanics of the turn, I would say these are the types of turning scenarios you would want to put yourself in to be better prepared for the road test. Or just stay away from areas that road test sites that's going to have these type of things. there's some road test sites that don't have any of these things that I listed here in terms of turns. But most have one or two or all of these. So most road test sites have at least one of these things that I listed here in terms of turning. Some have none. Some have all of these things. All right. So depending on that's why I said earlier, practice. Once you know where your road test is going to be at, practice and on similar roads and situations that you might see on your test. So that way, when you get to your test, you're already familiar with that type of scenario and situation. All right. Other than that, your turns, you don't want the turns to be too fast, too slow, too wide, or too short. Those things can fail you when it comes to your turns. Let's see what else. So we got preparing for your road test. I might get back to that, but I think that's a good rundown for now. Might get back to that. I might add to that later, if anything. I think that's a good rundown. Let me move this over. I'll move this over. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me go back to. Oh, okay, I know where I could go next. Okay, so basic rundown of the test. So again, this paper is, if anybody wants a copy of this paper, let me know. If you're watching on the YouTube or whatever, you can put a comment in the comment section, and I'll send you a link to this road test evaluation paper here, and you could look at it. You can ask me questions on it later, or whatever. All right. But anyway, this again is a rundown of the test. Again, any mistake that's on this paper that's a 15-point mistake is an automatic fail. The basic way of failing a road test is to accumulate more than 30 points. However, any mistake on this paper can fail you if it's done repeatedly or it's done bad enough. So I'll try to give you an example of that. Also, other ways you can fail the test, any type of mistake that could fall into these categories here at the bottom, which says reasons for disqualification. You have accident, serious violation, dangerous action. All right. So an accident is obvious, but an accident could be anything. It could be simple as you're driving too close to a vehicle and your mirrors touch each other. All right. Also, dangerous action. And dangerous action, anything that you do that the examiner feels was potentially dangerous is considered a dangerous action. That's also automatic fail. And again, serious violations are usually things that in a real life scenario, you could get a ticket for. For example, can you get a ticket for going through a red light?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you get a ticket for going through a yellow light?
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of people don't know that, but you can get a ticket for going through a steady yellow light. So when you see yellow lights on your road test, what should you do? Should you automatically stop, or is it okay to go through them?
Stop.
Okay, it depends on a situation. All right. So whether you go through a yellow light on a road test depends on the scenario. Let me see. Can I do that here? Don't want to use this diagram. I want to repurpose this. Yeah, why not? Okay. Let's say you're approaching an intersection. And let's say you are car A, which is right here. And let's say you are doing about 25 miles per hour. The light changes yellow. What should you do here? Continue or stop? And you're taking your road test. So you car A, this is the crosswalk, this is the intersect, this is the traffic light here, the light changes yellow. You're doing about 25 miles per hour when you see the lights change yellow. Should you go through or should you stop? In this scenario, I would say if you're that far away from the intersection, then you probably should be stopping here. All right. What if you are here? Same scenario. The light changes yellow. You are about that close to the crosswalk. You're doing about 25 miles per hour. You're taking your test. Go through or stop? Anybody?
Can you repeat yourself?
Okay, so let's say you are car A. This is you right here. You are approaching the crosswalk, the intersection. You're about this close to the crosswalk. When the light changes yellow, you are doing 25 miles per hour. Should you, and you're taking your test, should you go through or should you stop?
You should stop.
All right, if you're that close to the crosswalk and you're doing 25 miles per hour, huh?
You should go through.
Okay, and you want to go through, why? Because if you stop here, where will you be stopping at, most likely?
On the crosswalk.
You will be stopping on the crosswalk or after the crosswalk. Is that a good place to stop and wait when the light is going to change red and you're taking your road test? No, it's not a good spot. All right, so in that scenario, it would probably be better for you to do what? To keep going. If you're going to stop in a bad spot, if you're going to have to stop in a bad spot, or you could stop, but you would have to step on a brake extremely hard to stop in a good spot, then you probably should have kept going. All right. What if you are same position, but this time you are preparing to make a turn. So you are right there at the crosswalk. I mean, right before the crosswalk, the light changes yellow. And right when it changed yellow, you were in preparation to make a right turn here. Should you continue or stop? In this scenario, it's probably better that you stop, because are you likely going at a fast speed if you're preparing to make a turn here?
No.
Right, so you're probably not going at a fast speed. If what speed are you likely going at if you're this close to the crosswalk preparing to make a turn?
Like 5 or.
Right, between 5 and 10 miles an hour, right? So you're probably doing about 5 or 10 miles per hour at this point. So in that scenario, at 5 or 10 miles per hour, you could probably stop safely. Can you stop before you go in a crosswalk? Maybe, maybe not. But even if you went in the crosswalk, you probably wouldn't go way across the crosswalk. Maybe you would go over it a little bit. In that scenario, it's probably better to stop. All right. Why? Because the speed here that you're traveling at, 5, 10 miles an hour, gives you the ability to stop the car before going into the crosswalk and to stop the car safely because you're going at a slower speed. All right. All right, so that's an example of a serious violation there. So you have to be careful with yellow lights on the road test. If you go through a yellow light, when the examiner felt like you had enough time to stop, that you could have stopped safely, then they could fail you for going through the yellow light. Can you fail for stopping? Let me see how I should put this. How should I put this? I don't know if this is the exact question I want to get to, but can you fail? Forget it. Can't, but I'll put it a different way. Can you fail for stopping too early? Let's say you see the don't walk sign blinking, but the light has not changed yellow yet. And you stop here.
Yes.
While the light is still green. Can you fail for stopping?
Yes.
Yes, you could. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's serious violation. Also dangerous action. Oh, dangerous action would be stopping where, let's say you are that close to the crosswalk and you are doing about 25 miles per hour. And you did try to stop, or you did stop. Would that be considered dangerous? And why would that be dangerous? Say you're this close to the crosswalk, the light changes yellow, and you slam on the brakes. Why is slamming on the brakes considered dangerous?
You could hurt your passenger.
You could hurt your passenger, and what could happen with the vehicles that might be behind you?
They could hit you from behind.
Right, the vehicles behind you can hit you in the back. So that's why stopping in a dangerous manner should not be done. It should be avoided if possible. All right, now all of that being said, how long is the average road test? How long is the average road test, do you think? How long do they keep you out there driving for?
Half an hour, I guess.
No, a lot shorter than that, about 8 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So the average road test is about 8 minutes. Is that a long time that they're keeping you out there?
If you get nervous, yes.
Yeah, if you're nervous, 8 minutes is gonna feel like a long time. It's gonna feel like a half an hour. But it's not actually a long time that they're keeping you out there. Do they take you very far? They don't take you very far. When you take your road test, you drive in maybe a 4 to 5 block radius from where you start off at. So like here, what happened in this diagram, you might start off somewhere over here and you basically just do a circuit. They'll take you out, you might drive up 1 or 2 blocks and then they may say make a left or right. And then they take you down another 2 blocks, they may say make a left or right. And then they may say parallel park somewhere, you park, finish parking. Right after you finish parking, they may say do a 3-point turn. You do that. Once you do your parking and your 3-point turn, what's about to happen? They're about to bring you back to where you started from. Once you parallel park and do your 3-point turn, you are on the way back to where you started. The test is halfway over. All you got to do is make it back to where you started from without any major mistakes, and you probably passed. All right. A good sign that you have not failed a road test yet is that they keep asking you to do stuff. That doesn't mean you definitely passed, but it means that if you thought you messed up on something prior to that, and they keep asking you to do stuff, that means they probably did not fail you for that thing you think you messed up on. They could still fail you for that, but it's a decent sign if they keep asking you to do stuff. Usually when they fail you for something, they bring you back. You don't really complete the full test. All right. But it's a good sign if they that you're still in the game if they keep asking you to do things. All right. So, but after you finish parallel parking and do your broken U-turn, you're pretty much on the way back. All you have to do is a couple of lefts, a couple of rights, a couple of stop signs, a couple of right of way, and then you pull over. So they bring you back to where you started from, and they pull you over, then you stop. Put the car in park, and the test is over. All of that takes roughly about 8 minutes of driving. All right. So they don't take you, and all you're going to be asked to do is 1 parallel park, 1 broken U-turn, 1 left turn, 1 right. I mean, a couple of left turns, a couple of right turns, 1 park, one broken U-turn. The test is short, and they're not asking you to do a whole lot. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Good or bad?
Good.
It's a little bit of both. It's both good and bad. It's good because there's what? Less opportunity that you'll make what? Mistakes. It's bad that the test is short because there's less opportunity that you can prove that you can do what? That you could drive. All right, so you want to make sure that you are prepared for the road test because the test is not that long. They're not keeping you out there a long time. So you don't have a lot of time to prove to the examiner that you could do this correctly or do this well enough to pass. All right, so you're being tested on a limited amount of things in a limited time span, and they have to judge whether you should get your license based on that limited, piece of information that you are giving them. All right. It's almost the same as me asking you, what would you rather take? Would you rather take a 20-question test or would you rather take a 4-question test? What would you rather take? 20-question or 4-question? The 4-question test, you might be tempted to take it because it's only 4 questions. But the problem with the 4-question test is that each one of those questions is worth how many points out of 100?
25.
25. So that's good if the test is easy, but if you struggle with those 4 questions, if you struggle with one of those questions, if you get one of those questions wrong, you're already down to 75. If you get 2 of those questions wrong, that's a what? That's a
50.
fail. Right, that's a 50, that's a fail. All right, so your road test is more like the 4-question test than it is the 20-question test. A 20-question test, you have more room for error. So for example, if your test was actually 20 minutes long and they asked me to do the same amount of things, your examiner might give you more leeway with certain things because, you know, instead of two or three left turns or right turns, maybe doing 10. And then you have more of an opportunity to show them that you could correct your mistakes, or that one mistake that you made or that one thing was a fluke. All right. So keep that in mind, is that your test, you want to make sure you have good technique for your test, because that's basically what your examiners are testing you on. All right, so I didn't go into much detail as far as technique and stuff like that. But what I could do for the rest of the class is, do you have any questions as far as how they want you to do particular things, or is there something that you're struggling with now that I can help you with a little bit more explanation? Anything? What I'll do is I'm gonna cut off the YouTube. I'm gonna shut that down now. But anybody in the YouTube, you could hit me in the comments or whatever. I'll leave this up. I don't know if I'm gonna leave it up forever because it was just I'm just testing it out for future runs. But I'm gonna shut that off. Let me see, how do I cut that off? Yeah, where we at? What's the button here? I think I want to stop share. Go back to this one. Oh, live. Oh, here we go.